One of Donald Trump's former allies just confirmed the Hitler story that came out of The Atlantic today, and I've been saying on this show for so long that Donald Trump is so instinctually authoritarian that he can't even help it at this point. Whenever he's talking about the Constitution, he wants to rewrite it or terminate it altogether. Before he even was the president, he was saying that anyone who burns the American flag should lose their citizenship. Now he says that they should go to jail when that falls under the First Amendment, a foundational right. Every single time he talks about elections or our courts or the media, things that exist in our democracy as guardrails, he wants to tear them down. He wants to attack them. And now we have confirmation. I mean, we've known for a while, but we have triple confirmation that Donald Trump was praising Hitler while he was in the White House. This Kamala HQ post reads, Trump's former Homeland Security official, Kevin Carroll, says, quote, Trump admires Hitler. He frequently said to senior staff, why don't my generals support me the way that Hitler's generals supported him? The man quotes Hitler, and it's not as if he's accidentally quoting him. When it's brought to his attention, he says it again. Of course, Kevin Carroll is referring to Donald Trump saying that immigrants are, quote, poisoning the blood of our country, which is what Hitler said verbatim back in the 40s. And Donald Trump uses his entire platform to talk about immigration in the same way that Hitler did. But with 2 weeks to go, we have no time to waste. This is an important story, so make sure you drop a like, drop some comments to boost it, subscribe. I love you guys for being here with me. And right before I play this clip for you guys, I just want to show you one of my favorite articles maybe on the planet. This one reads, 24 former Trump allies and aides who turned against him. And this article is a little bit dated, but it perfectly highlights the way that Donald Trump's entire cabinet fell apart, and they all said he has a childlike understanding of the world. So no person in US politics, certainly no recent president, has such an expansive list of high-profile allies turned enemies. Just to name a few. 1. His VP, Mike Pence, said, quote, the American people deserve to know that President Trump asked me to put him over my oath to the Constitution. Anybody who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president. His second Attorney General, Bill Barr, who is spineless and has flipped back, said, quote, someone who engaged in that kind of bullying about a process so fundamental should never be near the Oval Office. His first Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, said, quote, Donald Trump is the first president in my lifetime who does not try to unite the American people, does not even pretend to try. Instead, he tries to divide us. His second Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, said, quote, I think he's unfit for office. He puts himself before the country. Mark Milley, shout out Mark Milley, seemed to invoke Trump. Quote, we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We take an oath to the Constitution, and this was only a few weeks after January 6th, of course. Rex Tillerson said, Trump's understanding of global events is limited. He has a limited understanding of global history, which makes it hard to communicate with him. Nikki Haley said he used to be good on foreign policy. Now he's walking it back and getting weak in the knees. The one that really blows my mind is the second chief of staff, John Kelly, who said, quote, a person that has nothing but contempt for our democratic institutions, our Constitution, and the rule of law. There is nothing more to be said. God help us. That one sends a shiver down the spine. And John Kelly also said that Trump offered private praise for Hitler's generals. He confirmed this story. In 2021, Donald Trump's spokesperson denied that the former Republican president had ever made positive comments about Adolf Hitler. More than 3 years later, those denials are increasingly difficult to believe. Just to recap the story, Trump has frequently voiced his disdain for those who serve in the military and for their devotion to duty, honor, and sacrifice. Former generals who have worked for Trump say that the sole military virtue he prizes is obedience, loyalty. As his presidency drew to a close, and in the years since, he has become more and more interested in the advantages of dictatorship and the absolute control over the military that he believes it would deliver. Quote, I need the kind of generals that Hitler had, Trump said in a private conversation according to two people who heard him say this, as was the case 3 years ago. Now, General John Kelly, a decorated general, decided to go on the record and support this claim. Quote, Kelly told me that when Trump raised the subject of German generals, Kelly responded by asking, quote, do you mean Bismarck's generals? He went on, quote, I mean, I knew he didn't know who Bismarck was or about the Franco-Prussian War. I said, quote, do you mean the Kaiser's generals? Surely you can't mean Hitler's generals. And he said, yeah, Hitler's generals. So he has said on multiple occasions he wishes his generals were more loyal, like German generals and even Hitler's generals. And let's go back to the main video that I want to show you guys. Trump's Homeland Security official Kevin Carroll. This is a video that you guys can send to your Trump supporting family members or friends. Also, this article, I'll leave them in the description below. Make sure you drop a like while you visit down there.
He certainly admires Hitler. I mean, he frequently said to senior staff, why don't my generals support me the way that Hitler's generals supported him? And of course, Hitler's generals, for the most part, did not support him. They tried to assassinate him several times. But just the fact that the president would think of himself, the fact that President Trump would think of himself in the same sentence as Hitler is a terrifying thing. The man quotes Hitler. I mean, phrases like poisoning the blood of the country and enemies of the people, those are things said by Hitler and Stalin as well. And it's not as if he's accidentally quoting them. When it's brought to his attention, sir, you just quoted Hitler. You just quoted Stalin or Lenin. He doesn't mind. He says it again.
He says it again. He doubles down. Now, Kevin Carroll makes multiple great points here. Number one, Hitler's generals tried to assassinate him multiple times. Number two, Trump quotes Hitler, then doubles down by saying they're poisoning the blood of the country. Take a look at this veteran, this voter who says he can't vote for someone like that.
A likely Biden voter because Trump offends him.
He said that, the immigrants are poisoning our blood. What would you say?
I'd say my mother was born in Mexico, and she came across the border legally. So, that's poison I can deal with, I guess.
So, Arizona might not go blue. Arizona does look like it's favoring Trump, but people understand what is at stake here. Watch President Biden talking about this exact quote. Very well said here.
My predecessor calls the insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol on January 6th patriots. But when peaceful protesters marched for justice for George Floyd, Trump wanted to send in the military, but they wouldn't go. He says immigrants, black and brown immigrants, poison the blood of our country. Right now, his running mate is attacking Haitian Americans in Ohio. It's wrong. It's got to stop.
Not to be that guy, but I also want to play you guys a clip of VP Harris, and boy, am I happy that she is now the candidate. There's nothing wrong with Biden. He is an amazing president, but watching him speak is a little rough compared to this.
So is a question of pragmatism then. What concessions would be on the table? Religious exemptions, for example? Is that something that you would consider?
I don't think we should be making concessions when we're talking about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body.
To Republicans like, for example, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, who would back something like this on a Democratic agenda if, in fact, Republicans control Congress, would you offer them an olive branch? Or is that off the table? Is that not an option for you?
I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals because we can go on with a variety of scenarios. Let's just start with a fundamental fact. A basic freedom has been taken from the women of America. The freedom to make decisions about their own body. And that cannot be negotiable.
That is Kamala Harris saying that she will make no concessions when it comes to abortion. That is what I'm talking about. Kamala Harris said, quote, I don't think we should be making concessions when we are talking about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body. VP Harris is not playing around, and that is a type of firm rhetoric that Democrats need to be using. Now, I want to show you guys some rapid fire news because some wild stuff has been going on today, from Bill Gates entering the race to Eminem entering the race, which I'm sure we'll talk about more as that plays out. But today, during the same interview that I just showed you, Harris defended Biden, saying he is capable in every way as president, and I totally agree. President Biden's doing great, even though I said that VP Harris is a better speaker. I'm just being objective. VP Harris, when she, in that interview, was doing great. Harris declines to say whether she would consider pardoning Trump or appointing Cheney. She said, I'm not going to get into those hypotheticals. Jackson's question carries some historic precedent. Then President Gerald Ford in 1974 granted his predecessor, Richard Nixon, a full preemptive pardon. What are they talking about here? Kamala Harris is not going to pardon Donald Trump. That is not, why would that ever happen? Why is this a question? Why is CNN reporting on it like there's some precedence? And it's just insane. Republicans think they got their own October surprise. Listen to this so we know how to debunk it. Harris apparently lifted language from a Republican attorney in her 2007 congressional testimony. Kamala Harris lifted language from a Republican attorney when she testified in front of Congress in 2007. The Washington Free Beacon, a conservative right-wing news outlet, reported this, and it raises concern, says CNN, but does not constitute a serious example of plagiarism, says CNN. This raises concern? Something from 17 years ago raises concern. What about Donald Trump in the Oval Office? I mean, they dedicate about the same amount of space, the same amount of words to this story as they do to the Trump-Hitler story. What in the absolute hell? And you know, this is one I find interesting. So you know how Mark Cuban has essentially been the liberal response to Elon Musk? Well, after we learned today that Musk's pro-Trump super PAC has spent more than $110 million on the White House race, we then learned that Bill Gates has also entered the race. Bill Gates privately says he has backed Harris with a $50 million donation of his own. Mr. Gates said in a statement to the Times that, quote, "This election is different, reflecting a significant change in his political strategy." After decades of sitting on the sidelines of politics, Bill Gates, one of the richest people in the world, has said privately that he recently donated about $50 million to a nonprofit that is supporting VP Harris's presidential run. This is absolutely amazing. Mr. Gates, in a private call, expressed concern about what a second Trump presidency would look like. Remember, Bill Gates said 5 years before the pandemic that someday there will be a pandemic and we won't be ready. This man knows what he's talking about. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you appreciate what I do, drop a like, make sure you subscribe. Have a great rest of your day and peace out.